Hi everybody, it's Dr. Kimber. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about a hot topic, the connection between estrogen dominance and testosterone. Last week, if you were joining, we talked about testosterone and some natural ways to support low testosterone. But we would be amiss if we did not discuss what are some of the common causes of low testosterone. And today, that's why we're going to talk about estrogen dominance. It is very prevalent among men and women. It's something that I see all the time in my clinic, and I'm excited to talk with you about it and hopefully help you to understand your body even more so that you can live a happy, full, very active life. So, where are you listening from? That's part of what makes this time really fun for me and us as a community is to find out where you're listening from. So I would love for you to go ahead and put in the comments where you're listening from. And I'd also love to know any questions that you might have that I might be able to help you with. All right, so let's dive in. We first of all need to start by understanding what's happening in our body. And so let's talk about some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing. Now, a lot of people will come to me in clinic and they'll just say, I think this is just all part of aging. Well, probably not. Yes, our bodies are aging. And yes, it's common that we see it as we age be more prevalent, but it doesn't have to be a cause of aging. And so what am I talking about? Well, let's talk about some of the symptoms of low testosterone. I also want to shout out to Ellie. Hello, Ellie. I'm glad you're here listening from Iowa. So what are some of the symptoms of low testosterone? Well, mood swings, persistent fatigue, low energy, low libido, a difficulty maintaining or building muscle mass, brain fog, poor concentration, and even poor sleep quality. All right, so those actually can be all connected to testosterone. And so if you're struggling with any of that, you might have a low testosterone issue going on. So because we're talking about the comparison or the connection between estrogen dominance and testosterone, let's take a minute and let's talk about those estrogen dominant, for men and women, symptoms. All right, so weight gain, especially around the hips, the thighs, the midsection, particularly for men. Again, mood swings and anxiety, very common with estrogen dominance. Breast tenderness and fibrocystic breasts, very common in women who are estrogen dominant. Heavy or irregular periods for women, that also is another really good indicator of estrogen dominance. Water retention, bloating, both men and women can get both of that. And for men, development of what we call, or what is being termed, man boobs. Okay, so those are all really common symptoms of estrogen dominance. So where's the connection between estrogen dominance and testosterone, low testosterone? We need to understand how these two hormones actually act in the body and what they do. And so what I'd like you to think about is kind of a biochemical seesaw. And when one side gets too heavy, it affects the entire system. All right, and let's dive into that. So there's what we're going to call is a conversion process, where your body naturally converts some of the testosterone into estrogen through an enzyme called aromatase. All right, so that's natural. In healthy amounts, this conversion is necessary and it's very beneficial. However, when aromatase becomes too overactive, all right, so when it becomes too overactive, meaning too much testosterone gets converted into estrogen, then that leads into estrogen dominance, or too much estrogen and estrogen excess, and it lowers testosterone. So we have a double impact that goes on there. All right, so that's the conversion process. Now we also have what's called a feedback loop. This is where higher estrogen levels then send signals to your body to reduce the testosterone production. All right, so we can kind of see now where estrogen dominance is going to lead to lower testosterone production because the body is signaling that it needs to lower that testosterone because we don't need any more of that converting into estrogen. And so and that happens when there's too much or there's an excess of estrogen. Okay, so this creates that cycle. Excess estrogen decreases the testosterone production. Lower testosterone production means less hormone is available for normal functions. Meanwhile, estrogen continues to escalate. All right, we can see where the issue is coming. If you're following me, say yes in the comments. All right, if you're kind of following along with what I'm saying and you're catching what I'm putting down here, right? All right, so this impact happens a little bit differently, but it happens to both male and female. So let's talk about what happens then, what we're looking at in this situation. First of all, estrogen excess binds to the testosterone receptors, which block the testosterone effects. All right, and then this leads to decreased muscle mass and an increase in body fat, lower libido, and enlargement of those breast tissues. We also can see emotional changes that come along with it as well. So that's kind of what we see with the men. All right. Ellie, I see you're following along. Awesome. Great. Now, let's talk about for women. What do we see happens when we have this excess of estrogen and this decrease in testosterone? Well, I think it's important to note that women need testosterone too. It's not just for men. We absolutely need it. When estrogen dominates, it reduces again the benefits or the effects of testosterone. So we see that with a lack of energy. We see that with muscle tone, with libido, with mental clarity. So those are all ways that we see that there's a estrogen excess and a testosterone decrease happening in the body. One of the other things I commonly see in my practice is it contributes to irregular cycles and oftentimes fertility issues as well. So hopefully you're kind of seeing that, some of the symptoms, how they work together, what the causes are, how the imbalance in estrogen, too much estrogen, leads to this decrease of testosterone. Okay, so what do we do about that? How do we take care of that modern imbalance? Well, I think it's important for us to actually understand even at a deeper level of what's causing this imbalance in our hormones. So I want to talk about a few key factors that are real sneaky, but they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. And by making some changes in these areas, you can actually influence and impact a balanced state between your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Right? We're talking about estrogen and testosterone mostly today, but we can't forget progesterone is a player in this hormone balance thing. All right, so let's talk about environmental factors. Your environment plays a huge role in your hormonal balance. Why? Well, particularly plastic containers. I want to talk about plastic containers. So plastic containers, especially when they're heated or they're exposed to sunlight, they release something called BPA and other xenoestrogens. Now, they are estrogen mimickers or blockers. And so they can cause this excess estrogen to happen inside of our bodies. Now let's think about this a minute. Now, before I knew anything that I knew about questioning my water bottle intake, years ago I lived in California, and my kids were little. And I have mom guilt about this, what I'm going to tell you all the time, by the way. And they were always thirsty. So I thought I was doing this amazing thing by carrying around a case of plastic water bottles in my car all the time for them. Well, not that living in California plays any factor to that, except for it's kind of warm there most of the time and hot a lot of the times. And so I had these water bottles I carried around all the time that would get hot and cold, depending upon the temperature. It was easy for me because I'd just throw them a water bottle. Well, I was giving my kids these fully loaded BPA waters. Like I said, I have mom guilt for that all the time, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And so that's something we all have to remember. You don't know what you don't know. So make changes. So don't drink water out of plastic bottles, especially that have been heated, because they leach the BPA. Now, even BPA plastics need to be thought, we need to think this through. So a lot of those cute water bottles that we get at Target or Walmart or wherever you happen to shop to get cute water bottles that are made of plastic, they might say BPA free, but they still contain what's called BPS and BPF. Okay, they are like still in the same family of BPA. So they can claim BPA free, but they still have these others that do the same thing. They mimic your estrogen. So what do we do? Well, let's stay away from plastic containers. And I just picked on water bottles. Think about the Ziploc plastic containers that you can pick up at the grocery store to store your food in. Thanks, Joy. Your deepest sympathies and condolences. I appreciate that. By the way, I've detoxed them, so they're doing pretty good. Now they're pretty healthy, but I appreciate your sympathies. But think about the other plastics that we store food in. Like, you know, if you do any kind of meal prepping, are you storing that food in plastic containers? We've just got to stop. Stop with the plastic containers. Go to glass. Glass, stainless steel, that is our better option. Okay, so whether it's water bottles or whether it's storage containers, definitely go to glass or stainless steel. All right, next thing, let's talk about food choices, particularly if you organic food. Now, you might be thinking, all right, enough. I mean, it's everywhere. We're hearing about it everywhere right now, which I love, love, love. But conventional meat and dairy oftentimes contain added hormones that are used in farming. Well, they don't just disappear. Those added hormones don't just disappear during processing. They end up in our bodies. So my friends, by eating just conventional meat and dairy products, we can be taking in those xenoestrogens or those estrogen blockers. Xenoestrogens are things that mimic estrogen, all right? So we want to avoid that, and that's why organic farming or eating clean meat and clean dairy, hormone-free, antibiotic-free is so important, because it is wreaking havoc in our bodies. And I know it's expensive. It's more expensive, and that really, really sucks. But it really, really, really sucks to also have major hormonal imbalances and to feel crappy. So we have choices that we have to make. Pesticides used in conventional farming. Hopefully we do see that in the future changing, but right now we have to be very mindful of it. And so to purchase organic is important because they are known endocrine disruptors. So do your best. Make the choices where it counts. Follow along with the ewg.org, so that you can find out currently what is your best, healthiest organic foods that you definitely want to be eating all the time right now, and then the others that you can maybe get away with not eating, but really be choosy and really be picky. All right, next area, water filtration. Don't you feel like you just get it? Like toxins coming from every direction? I mean, if it's not one thing, where it's the cute water bottles and the plastic containers and we think we're doing a good thing, to the conventional meats and dairies and the pesticides on our foods, and now we have to talk about water. Well, the truth is that municipal water can contain a ton of hormones that come from medication. So we have to be vigilant. Do not drink tap water. Do not drink tap water. Any other kind of filtered water is better than tap water. Now, when I work with patients, I always say distilled water is the best because it's the only water that you absolutely know that nothing is in it. However, I know I'm going to have those of you out there that say, well, that takes out all of our minerals and we have mineral depletion. Well, put your minerals back in your water. You can be in control of that. Wouldn't you rather just be in control of knowing what you're putting in your water than out of control knowing what's in your water that you're drinking? To me, that makes sense. All right. So, be vigilant about your water. Don't drink tap water. Best water to drink is distilled water. Replace it with the minerals. But, any kind of water that you do not drink besides distilled water is going to have traces of heavy metals. And those heavy metals actually are endocrine. They mess with our hormone production. All right. So again, going back, if you want to be vigilant about those hormones, then we have to consider the water that we're drinking. All right. Next topic is the your personal care products. All right. So we talked about the plastics and the environmental issues. We talked about the food. We talked about your water, and now it's your personal care products. So all those fun, smelling soaps that you're using, women, consider your tampons and your pads that you're using.